And then I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:08 p.m. Okay, so as I was saying, my name is Margaret Brissom. I'm the chair of this committee. My committee members that sit on this group are Tina Compton, she's not here yet. Sam Lobb, I think I did see Sam. Sam
Yes.
here. Yep,
Hello.
there's Sam. He is also on the Peninsula Community Planning Board as a board member. Congratulations, Sam just got elected this year. We've got Matt Shallow. He's also a board member and a committee member on here. And then we've got Robert Tripp Jackson. We all know Robert Tripp Jackson with his many years of service to the PLA and our community in general, Robert Tripp Jackson. So those are our members of this board that can vote, take action, and do all that stuff. And the rest of you, I'm super thankful you are here. Let's get right to it. I don't have meeting minutes on the agenda because this is our first official meeting with a new committee and of the 2021-2022 Peninsula Community Planning Board. So we'll move all along. We don't have meeting minutes. This will be our first one. I want to open up the meeting to public comment. If you can, just raise your hand, and anything that you've got, public comment, can be about anything. Wow, we're just getting straight to the point here. I like that. Oh, is that you, Paul?
Just wanted to say, in appearances to the contrary, I am not Cynthia Stribling. I'm using my wife's computer and I don't know how to change that. So.
No problem. Okay.
But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul Webb.
Thank you for introducing yourself. And I think we've got Corla also here. She is a PCPB board member as well. And then, yeah, and Evelyn. Hi, Evelyn.
Hello, everyone.
Community member, passionate about the community. And then anyone else? Oh, Nicole Burgess is also on here, big bike advocate. And she sits on the PCPB board this year and also on many committees on the board. So, all right, if we don't have any other public comment, I'd like to go straight into informational items and discussion with Measure E, Sports Arena, and Navwar. Mr. DK, can you lead us in that direction? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks so much, Margaret, for organizing this and for inviting me out this evening. My name is DK Neal. I, to Margaret's point, serve as the vice chair of the Midway Pacific Highway. Those three topics, Measure E, the sports arena redevelopment, as well as the Navwar site redevelopment. So beginning with Measure E, just at a high level summary for those of you who are unfamiliar, this was a ballot measure in the city of San Diego that was on the November 2020 election that considered whether or not to remove specifically the Midway Pacific Highway Community Planning area from the long-standing 30-foot height limit that was instituted back in 1972. And so that effort actually originated within our community planning group itself. We passed a community plan update. It took many years, but it was sort of certified by the city council in like September of 2018. And in that community plan update, we rezoned. So those of you who are familiar with Midway, you know there's a lot of commercial activity, a lot of heavy industrial activity, not too many residents. I think there's some, I think 2,000 units sort of scattered around the district at present. And so physical units that are actually built out. But the community plan update that we passed in 2018 served to change the zoning, allows for a lot more residential units in the city owned areas, not the federal land like Navwar is separate. We'll get to that in a little bit. But basically what Measure E did was, like I said, look to remove that specific footprint, which is like 1,324 acres, from that existing height limit. So that ballot measure, like I said, was voted on by the citizens of San Diego this past November. We were successful. I think we won, it was like 56 point something percent to 43 point something. It was over 80,000 votes was the margin there. So we were successful there. The one thing, other than my cat, who loves to speak up, One thing though, regarding the height limit in particular, there was some organized opposition to our campaign. Typically ballot measures have yes and no sort of sides. And there was a lawsuit that was filed against the city of San Diego specifically in the weeks and months leading up to that November vote, right? So I think they were filed in August, shortly after the ballots were printed. And basically what this lawsuit alleged was that the city of San Diego failed to do the requisite environmental impact report on the potential impact of taller buildings. That would obviously then be the sort of outcome of a successful Measure E. So because that was filed against the city of San Diego, and I myself do not represent the city, I have sort of limited true knowledge on what exactly is going on. I check in with the city attorney's office on a fairly frequent basis. They know who I am. They don't like to tell me anything in particular. But from what I gather, there's a court date, a hearing date in like mid-July, whereby the judge will actually decide on whether or not the results of that November 2020 election will be upheld and we'll be able to move forward. Technically, as of this specific moment, because we were victorious at the ballot box, the municipal code has been changed and Midway District is no longer subject to the 30-foot height limit. Although I do sort of have it on good authority from, Development Services Department, some of these folks, that if you were to go to try to pull permits for a plan over 30 feet at this specific moment, just because of that pending litigation, chances are they would say, hold off until we have, clarity from the courts. So that's the update on Measure E, where that stands. Like I said, that's a process that we're tracking closely. It's unfortunate that, it's sort of had to be prolonged as far as the victory party. We never had a full-blown victory party because we knew that we needed to sort of win and then win again in the courts in addition to the ballot boxes. But that's where that one stands. In addition to Measure E and the redevelopment of the overall Midway community that is sort of hoped for and dreamed of in that community plan update, the city owns a large parcel of land on Sports Arena Boulevard. That includes the sports arena, the parking lot around it, a lot of the parcels to the south of the sports arena itself. So if you think Dixie Line, if you think where the Pier 1 used to be, basically going from the sports arena parking lot, the north end of the sports arena parking lot, all the way down to the parking lot where In-N-Out is and that parking structure that's there, that's all city-owned land. A lot of those different businesses were under long-term leases from the city of San Diego. And those leases actually expired in May of 2020. So about a year ago, it was actually the end of May. So basically almost a year to the day. And so in advance of those leases expiring, what the city started doing was socializing the fact that they were planning on redeveloping that entire footprint, anchoring with the sort of sports and entertainment complex that is existing there and that was also sort of present in our community plan update that was passed in 2018. So the previous mayoral administration led that effort. I think they launched a request for proposals process in February of last year. There were two sort of finalist bidders, a group that include ASM Global, which is an entertainment company, as well as Brookfield, which is a housing developer. And then the other group that finished second was an MSED group. And so basically the Faulconer administration chose the Brookfield team. We just kind of refer to them as Brookfield at this point. Chose them to be the sort of master developers of this reimagined, I think that site is 48 acres. And their whole point was to, redevelop a sports arena, build housing, build parks and open space, and have, a sort of wide-ranging mixed-use commercial redevelopment there, commercial residential. So that all happened last year. I thought everything was going along great. Basically, Faulconer termed out. And then earlier this year, when we started looking at, okay, so yeah, there's been a selection made by this sort of entity, but what about the terms of the lease? What actually, what comes next, right? So in the timeline of this entire thing, like I said, the RFP went out in February, the leases ended in May. I think the selection was made in August. We won the election in November. And then we kind of sat back and waited for an announcement from the city. And then, I think fast forward to like mid-March of this year, 2021 now, we come to find out that in addition to some of the local issues we've been going on with, the state of California also had recently amended some statewide legislation that basically redefined what we thought we were doing. There's some language in a bill called the Surplus Land Act that dictates that anytime a public entity like a city is looking to dispose of land, that they need to first offer that public land to affordable housing developers. that term dispose of that's a direct quote from the language, and previously it was understood that dispose of related only to the sale of property. Unfortunately, we came to find out a little bit too late, relatively recently now, that that also includes leases of public land of certain sort of qualifications. And so the sports arena site is not a sale of land. They're not selling, the city's not selling that property. They're looking to lease it. But because the state had updated its guidelines, the game sort of changed on Brookfield. It's kind of changed on the city. And to my knowledge, the negotiations that the city and Brookfield were having have sort of come to a standstill while the city looks to try to find some workaround or exemption to this surplus land act that dictates that they need to offer this to affordable housing developers. My understanding is that they're pursuing some sort of legislative fix where that might exempt the sports arena site from that requirement. I don't have, I did in the advance of this meeting reach out and try to get an update from the city directly. I do sit on Brookfield's community advisory board for the redevelopment of the sports arena. So I feel like I definitely know more than the average person, but I wasn't able to get a fresh update, the latest update. I think we're still in the same holding pattern that we were in the last time I got an update, which was about 3 weeks ago. So that's the update on the sports arena. And then the Navwar site.
Let's hold off on the Navwar site, because that's going to be a very controversial conversation. Can I circle back to you, DK, on that one? Because I think the majority of people are here for that one, and Ocean Beach, a couple Ocean Beach updates. So let's hold Navwar for a second there. And if you don't mind, DK, you have a Midway Planning Board meeting tomorrow, correct? Can you give us those details?
Correct. Yes, I can throw the agenda in the chat here. So we meet regularly on the third Wednesday of every month at 3 p.m. still via Zoom. So our meeting for May just happens to be tomorrow. And I don't have the agenda directly in front of me, but I can grab it. We're going to also be discussing the Navwar thing, as well as...
They have a lot of speakers that we sometimes don't get for the Peninsula Community Planning Board. So it's really good to try to join their meetings and support. And just, if anything, listen to what's coming down the pipelines. They do a really good job at providing updates and getting speakers at those meetings. So
certainly, yeah. So tomorrow we'll have presentations from both SANDAG and from the Navy directly. As informational items about this entire thing. And then also we're looking to take action as a community planning group regarding how we want to formally engage with this process as well. So we're looking at a subcommittee of some kind. But happy to.
Okay, I'm going to circle back to Navwar in a second. Sam, did you have a question?
Yeah, where is the meeting on Wednesday, tomorrow, DK?
It'll be online on Zoom, and I can throw the link to that meeting in the chat right now.
I'll send it to our board members too.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you're all invited. You're all invited.
Any other questions for DK on Measure E and sports arena development? We're good? Clear? Good job. Okay. So next,
all right, nailed it.
Mark Winkie. Can I throw Mark Winkie up next, because he's got another meeting that I completely spaced on, and he's going to give us some updates on OB Pier. And what's the OB Town Council got going on, Mark?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for moving me up in the agenda. I appreciate it, because I do have to book out of here at 7. But yeah, we got a lot going on as usual. I mean, one of the big things apart from the pier is the promised vending ordinance that has disappeared into thin air over the last couple of months, which is very frustrating, I think, for District 2, specifically the beach areas. And I'm sure most of you have seen what's going on, not just in Ocean Beach, but in Mission Beach and PB, and even in La Jolla. In fact, there was a piece on Channel 8 about it just a couple of days ago. Very quickly, we've been working closely with District 2, and Andrea can attest to this. And they worked pretty hard to get a draft ordinance together back a couple of years ago, but that never got passed through to City Council because it was blocked by the Gomez, the president at that time, refused to put it on the floor for a vote. Anyway, so now we have a new administration. We were hopeful that we were going to get something going, a meaningful ordinance that would regulate the Wild West situation, which is occurring all along, as I say, the beach community. Even along Sunset Cliffs now, we're starting to see vending going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if it starts to appear along the other side of Point Loma at some point too, because there's absolutely nothing to stop it right now, zero. We're very frustrated, and we've let the mayor know about it. We've let Jen Campbell know about it, but we've yet to see any traction. And I think it's really important for us as a community to speak with one voice about this, because I think the general attitude in council chambers is that this ordinance would be hurtful. It would hurt minority groups and be punitive to them. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about some kind of orderly ordinance which would require people to have a business, a permit, a business license, food handling license, and the like. And the city has $250,000 in the budget to help vendors be compliant. What we're asking is, we need our beaches back. We need access to the beaches the way they used to be. We need our parks free from vending, which they're not, that's what they're not designed for. They're not designed for that. And I'd like to ask, your group to come along and look at an open letter that I'm actually developing, and I will send it out to you, and hopefully you'll sign on to that so we can send it to the city. So that is one issue, a big issue. Obviously, the issue that I'm here to talk about very quickly is the pier. And you're probably aware that the pier is being worked on as we speak. And they're gonna try to get it open before the summer. But the work that's being done is really, I would say, cosmetic in a sense, although, the railings are gonna be repaired and it's gonna be safe for people to walk on. But the actual big issue, the structural issue of the pier is not being addressed yet. And that's why we're having a town hall meeting next Wednesday at our regular scheduled public meeting. It will be a town hall type forum where we're going to have people, engineers from the city, the original engineers who did the survey in 2019 will be there, and some of our elected officials. And I'm inviting any of you to participate in that. You'll be able to ask questions to this group and give your opinion of what you want the pier to look like and what you see the future of the pier being. Is it going to just be a retrofit that will last, a few 10, 20 years? Or do we really want to go and tear it down and rebuild it with new material, new structure in compliant with the latest regulations? Then it will last a lot longer. So really, that's my report. I would urge you to come along to the town hall meeting. It is going to be next Wednesday, and it will start at 7 o'clock. It will be a virtual Zoom meeting. If you're interested, just contact info@obtowncouncil.org, and we'll get you a slot on the Zoom meeting, and we'll listen to what you have to say. Is there any questions for me?
Any questions? Feel free to ask anything. Ocean Beach. Corla? Nope.
Just thumbs up. I like that. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Really quickly, Mark, can you give us some of your contact information for OB Town Council so we can follow you, see when you've got your meetings? And then another thing, please send me that letter so I can put it on my action item to bring to the board and so we can support.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. I'll put my contact info in the chat, and I will send the invite to the town hall meeting over to you, Margaret, and then you can send it out to who you wish to.
Yep, and that's the mission and hope of this group, is to work together with you and Midway and Liberty Station. I think 1 or 2, 3 groups work better than just one when taking it to the city. So we got to stick together on some of these issues.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you making this meeting.
Yes, I appreciate you allowing me to jump ahead of the rest of you. So thank
Yep,
you
no
so much.
problem. They'll
Okay.
beat you up later.
Sorry to interrupt. Was this going to be an action item, or are we going to wait till their town council meeting? Do you guys want to do a letter or anything, or what was the plan on that, Margaret?
He hadn't really advised. Mark, did you want us to
Yes.
make this an action item to bring to our Thursday meeting? If you can get me the letter, I can definitely make this an action item and vote on it tonight.
I don't have it fully drafted yet.
Okay. And
but I will-
I'm assuming Sam, Robert, and a couple of the other committee members want to see the letter before voting on anything, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, you may want to tweak it a little bit, and I'm open to that. But it's, I think, well, it depends on how you feel about unregulated vending. But I would assume that most people would like to see some common sense ordinance to regulate it. And I would argue, just before I hang up, I would argue that the city is really doing itself a disservice when we have a lot of unregulated, businesses and unregulated events happening where people just don't seem to have any regard or concern about what they're doing and how they're operating. And I think that that's a really bad precedent for the city moving forward. It just erodes their authority, and it's bad for us all. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If you can send me that letter, I'll circulate it to the appropriate individuals to get it on the board agenda for an action item in the future. Corla?
Perfect. I just want to see both of these as action items for the board. We might be a little premature in the process as far as getting a letter going, but I don't want this to fall through the cracks. It's like what happened with the bikes and the bird scooters and all that stuff. It was a Wild West, and Mark described it perfectly. So there needs to be some pullback and regulation on these type of activities. And I think our planning board needs to get involved and support both of these. Thank you.
I agree, Corla. Anyone else real quick to Mark before he pieces out? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Move it along real quickly here. I'm going to bring it up to Peter with Riverwalk San Diego, another project that's coming into beautiful San Diego.
Thank you, Margaret. I've got a little presentation I can share here if you're able to let me share the screen. I don't know
Yes,
if that's something you guys
please.
do. Cool.
We love presentation.
Yeah, you can look at prettier pictures than my mug. So that's always nice.
Okay, go for it.
It says the host has disabled
Yep.
participant screen share. I don't know if that's a setting you can
Let's
change on your end.
see. Got it.
All right. No, I'm still getting the same message. We are seeing your screen now, though, as an FYI.
Okay, let me get out of there. Stop share.
I think maybe if you just make him a co-host, Margaret, if you have that option, that should give him that authority.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yep, beautiful. All right.
Okay, awesome.
Well, I know you all are short on time, so I'm going to fly through this, but are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Great. Well, my name is Pete Shear. I'm here to talk about our Riverwalk project over in Mission Valley. It is, just a quick background on our company. We're a global development company, but everybody working on this project is based here in San Diego. I raised my family over in Hillcrest, and you may hear them screaming in the background here, so apologies. It's bath time. But Riverwalk, it's a large project. It's going to be tough to talk through in the 5 minutes I was allotted, but I'll do my best. We see this as San Diego's first truly transit-oriented village. It's in the heart of Mission Valley, and we're building a new transit stop and an entire neighborhood around it. we want to show the city of San Diego something that we truly believe, and that is that a car-free lifestyle is not only possible, but in fact can be preferable. I believe that. So what is Riverwalk at a high level? It's 4,300 units, homes for about 8,000 San Diegans. 10% of those will be on-site affordable units. And we have 1 million square feet of office to create a new office campus, and then 150,000 square feet of neighborhood serving retail that will be right next to the transit stop. All of this will be around about 100 acres of open space, including the largest park dedicated to San Diego in almost 100 years. So here is the project in plan view. Because we're short on time, I'll just say, you know, what we aim to do is to have the density around the transit stop. We think that the key to leveraging the investment we've made as a community in transit is to put density around transit. And then you can see this transitions to a residential neighborhood as we get closer to our neighbors to the east and the west. And then that office campus, 1 million square feet of office, is immediately adjacent to the I-8 where transportation can get in and out as easily. I'm getting a fair amount of feedback from Thomas if we're able to go on mute. Thank you, sir. So let me just fly through some pretty pictures. You know, we envision this as more than just a transit station. So many of our neighbors in Mission Valley have built transit-oriented developments, but they're really not transit-oriented. So what we want to do is have the center of action immediately adjacent to the transit stop to walk off into a beautiful place like this, a place you can gather where we envision having, you know, gatherings in the evenings and weekends, live music, you know, town hall, what's the word I'm looking for? Farmers market, town hall gatherings, etc. You know, really the essence of a gathering space, which Western Mission Valley really lacked. And then design this whole thing so that it's pedestrian and bicycle oriented. So much of Mission Valley today is designed around the car. And we really want to create a place that feels like it's built for the human and not just. A big component of this, and I think something that may be interesting to this group, is the extension of the San Diego River Trail that we will be constructing through our project. So if you're not familiar with the San Diego River Trail and the vision of the San Diego River Foundation, the goal is to have a trail that goes all the way from the waters out in Ocean Beach and Dog Beach, and then traverses the path of the San Diego River Trail, or the San Diego River, all the way up to its headlands back in East County, about 47 miles of trail system there. There's a big push right now on the lower 9 miles, and that is the connection from Ocean Beach out to Grantville. Some of the last components of this river trail to make that connection are the areas on Riverwalk and just to the west of Riverwalk. So thinking about some of those hotels on Hotel Circle North and South, the YMCA, that area. Once that connection goes through, which we're going to build about a mile stretch of, then there will be the connection from Ocean Beach out to Grantville, and really will be one of the greater recreation and mobility opportunities for San Diego. So the city and the county are collectively working on some potential funding sources for that. You know, something I can keep Margaret and the team apprised of as it comes forward. But Riverwalk will be building a meaningful portion and then activating that trail with retail and parks on both sides, really to become one of the, you know, like I said, best recreation opportunities in the city. You know, same view here from the other side. What we think makes that river trail so special is the ability to put some breweries and restaurants and retail immediately adjacent to it, make sure that the trail feels safe and also activated and exciting. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll just touch on it again. We're doing 10% on-site affordable housing. That's 430 affordable units. It'll be one of the largest affordable projects in the history of San Diego. And this is the right place for affordable housing, near transit, near jobs, near parks, near amenities. We're really excited about the way that adds to the diversity of our community. And then lastly, I'll touch on you know, the office component. We see a different office project here than what you're used to in City of San Diego. We've pioneered a product called T3, which is a timber-based construction methodology. And so rather than generating carbon emissions through steel and concrete, we actually sequester carbon in the structural members here with a mass timber product. We think it fits really well with the environment here in San Diego and the overall ethos of the project. So I mentioned this earlier, but here's that image again. You know, this will be the largest park. We're going to dedicate 80 acres to the city of San Diego as river park and natural habitat, the largest park dedicated in about 100 years. And what I think is really awesome about this is it's going to be accessible by trolley. So when I first moved to the city about 5 years ago, I was blown away that the trolley didn't go to the airport, didn't go to the beaches, and didn't go to Balboa Park. All the places that people that would ride the train would go. And so we're excited about the possibility of having not just housing and employment, but also recreation opportunities accessible by train. Here's one final image of the overall development. You can see a bit of the scale and also just the magnitude of that open space that we're going to be providing in Mission Valley. So that's the extent of my presentation, Margaret, and I'll open up to questions if you guys have any. I know you're on short time.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, Robert.
This is Robert. So from how I understand this and from what Riverwalk says, when is this supposed to commence?
Yeah, great question. So we were fully entitled in November of last year. We've now cleared the CEQA challenge period. So we are past CEQA challenge and ready to get going. And we're in design right now on phase one. Phase one, to go back to my site plan real quick, let me kind of outline this for you guys. So phase one is essentially going to be the 6 blocks that you see here north of the transit stop. And so we're going to deliver that town square and residential units, probably 800 to 900 residential units with the first phase, and about 100,000 square feet of retail and some park space. So we really want to deliver the vision of, you know, a central gathering space with day one. The timeline there, design and permitting through, let's call it first quarter of next year, will likely break ground in the first quarter of 2022, and then be under construction with the first buildings opening in late 2024.
Okay, so so Friars will be that will be on Friars, and that's going to be closed down. But Riverwalk's under this impression that they're going to still maintain their front 18 holes. And it doesn't look like a golf course to me. It looks basically made a park. So that's not accurate information.
No, that is accurate information. Absolutely.
The golf courses are going to remain.
Yeah. So if you see the site plan here, essentially the 18 holes that is the main course now. If you're talking about the Riverwalk golf course that's out there today, it's always awesome when I get to talk to people who golf that course. So the 18 holes that's out there today and operational will be in operation while we build out the first phase and the second phase, and then that golf course will get phased out and ultimately become a public park. So as we've been telling the golf course operators to tell patrons, that'll be open for at least 5 to 7 more years.
Okay. As far as within your development plan, is there plenty of resources for the residents to for shopping, everyday life?
Yeah.
Restaurants and all that? Are they going to be pretty well established within that that proximity right there?
Yeah, so this is exactly what we want to deliver, is the ability to have your neighborhood serving everyday type of uses. Think grocery, fitness, bars and restaurants, all within walking distance, so that you don't have to get on the roads and drive downtown or drive over to Liberty Station.
Or Arena, yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. So,
right.
Having those mix of uses, we think actually creates a better place, but also reduces traffic congestion in the city.
Okay, well, hate to lose the golf courses, but it looks like you guys are, from what I see, it looks like you guys are thinking a step ahead, and I appreciate your time on talking with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. And you got some years still to get your rounds in, and right. I hear you. It's my local course as well. I used to try to I live right by Balboa Golf Course, but in COVID, it's impossible to get a tee time anywhere. So now I'm a Sunrise 9 guy at Riverwalk.
Excellent questions, Robert Jackson. Cameron.
Yes, I was just wondering, and I might have missed this. What's the percentage of affordable housing that's going to be on this, and what's the percentage of market rate that's going to be with the project?
So we're doing 10% on-site affordable housing, and then the remainder would be market rate housing. You know, we envision, just based on where Mission Valley is and the clientele it serves today, so thinking about our future residents, you know, this will be a diverse community. We're obviously very, very close to USD. I think there'll probably be some graduate student residents here, as well as faculty and maybe undergrads. And then we're also looking all the way up the other end of the spectrum to senior housing and assisted living. So, you know, I think this will be a community that's got something for everyone. But to answer the affordable question, we are doing 10% on site, so about 430 units.
And is any of this public land that you're using, or?
It is not. It's all privately owned. We've partnered with the Levi and Cushman family. They have owned this golf course for over 115 years in their family. You probably know the Levi or Cushman names from a number of their philanthropic efforts throughout town. So we've partnered with them on this land. If you look at the site plan, there is actually about 5 acres just off of our site plan here. That's currently 2 holes of golf for the course, and that's owned by MTS. And I think MTS is interested in eventually doing affordable housing there.
And then you mentioned that there's going to be a dedicated park. Is that actually going to be land donated to the city and dedicated as an actual park? Or is it just going to be a parkland that could be used for development later on at a different time?
Yeah, no, it's going to be dedicated to the city of San Diego, and they will own it in fee title forever. So there's no way for us to take this back or do the old developer switcheroo, as I'm gathering from the question.
Yes.
So no, this is, we have a development agreement on this project, and prior to the issuance of our first building permit, we have the requirement to give them an irrevocable offer of dedication for the entirety of that space.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Excellent questions. Sam, I think you had your
Yes.
hand up.
I wondered if you could put some color on access between the residential portions and the actual office area. It seems like the Valley Road is more inclined to be vehicular instead of some kind of alternative transportation.
Yeah, and that's a great question, and one that you can start to get. I unfortunately don't have the more detailed site plan handy. Let me see if it's in the backup slides here. Here we go. Sure enough. So to your point, sir, the office down here in the south, and then the residential and retail uses up in the north. There will be a system of trails going through the parks that connects that. It'll be a beautiful walk, albeit a slightly long walk across the park, but you will have meaningful pedestrian connections between the north and the south. The only vehicular connection, though, is through Fashion Valley Road. And that is, just the nature of crossing the San Diego River. There's a number of, river crossings that exist today, some to our west and some to our east. There is also the potential for a future road to go through the western side of the property. You can see it here on this site plan. This is called Via Las Cumbres, or Street J. It was included in the Mission Valley Community Plan update. It's not part of our development, but it is something that we're going to dedicate the land to the city if they want to build in the future.
Well, will there be bicycle trails that would connect between the 2 areas?
Yes, absolutely. We've got I have a slide for that too. We've got over 6 miles of pedestrian trails and 6 miles of bicycle trails. We've got, the combination of, recreation type of trails. You see those are the class 1 bike paths here in orange, as well as the, more purposeful, I call them mammal trails, MAMIL, middle-aged men in Lycra. Those are the guys that go whizzing by you really fast when they're, trying to get from one place to another, either for a workout or getting to work. So we'll have dedicated bike trails on all the frontage roads and all of the roads internal to the streets as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Good questions. Howard.
So sure, this has been well thought out. What are the considerations for like the 100-year floodplains and what we've seen in not in a lot of years, but I remember from the 60s and I know we had some horrific flooding in the 40s.
Yeah, you're right. We spent a lot of time thinking about flooding. And so you can see on this slide just where the floodway is, or where it will be after development. Currently, the MTS system was built in the late 90s and raised up onto a 100-year flood berm, Howard. So essentially everything to the north is outside of the floodway and floodplain. And then everything to the south is inside of the floodway and floodplain. To create these development pads to the north and the south of the river, what we'll do is actually lower some of the golf course that has been artificially raised and allow the river to spread out. So we worked really closely with Rob Hutzel and the River Park Foundation, as well as Jim Pugh over at the Audubon Society, to try to think about this from the river standpoint, but also from a development standpoint. And what this design actually does is it gets rid of the channelization that occurred with FISDRIP and the MTS construction, and gives the river more room to breathe, and then also allows the possibility for development to the north and the south. So this will be one of the widest points of the San Diego River floodway in all of Mission Valley by the time we do the redevelopment.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else with last minute questions for Peter? Now or never, we've got him on the spot.
Could I ask, does
Go
Paul
ahead.
have some questions, Paul Grimes, or?
Hi, Paul.
Hi. I assume that you're maybe going to need a bridge for that trail to get across the river at some point as it goes off your property to the west. You're on mute, sir.
You're talking about the San Diego River Trail, Paul?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Will there be any fields built on the city property eventually when the?
So, yeah, let me answer those two questions at the same time because they're kind of linked together. So as I mentioned in my presentation, the city and the county are currently looking at what's known as an EIFD, an Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, to potentially fund the San Diego River Trail and the system of parks within Mission Valley. We don't know exactly the timing or the process that the city and the county are running there, but it is a potential opportunity to fast track a lot of this development. And so you can see here, Paul, to your question, the connection offsite, as we go west of our property, you get behind some existing residential. There's easements there for an old road, a paper road that's never going to be built called Napa Street. And so there's a possibility to connect through that paper road. And then the community plan update shows a new pedestrian and bicycle bridge right behind the YMCA connecting down to Sefton Fields. So that is the best information I have on the latest and greatest for the River Trail. Rob Hutzel is championing that cause, and we talk with him on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. As it relates to the River Park, this is the plan that we ultimately have for the River Park. And you can see we do have the space to the south to do a meaningful amount of ball fields. What we show is 2 full-size soccer fields or 5 junior fields here. We are providing, consistent with the feedback from the community, a natural park. So I'll show you the plan for what Riverwalk will be providing. This is a nature trail, really celebrating the San Diego River, consistent with the conversations we've had with the Audubon Society and the River Park Foundation. Ultimately, the city of San Diego wants to have something more activated, and this is something that they're working through funding currently. That's part of that EIFD effort.
Thank you. Another couple of questions. How many acres total is this project?
The total project is about 195 acres.
Okay. And what's the maximum height of the buildings that would be there?
So we have had a lot of good conversation with our neighbors to the east and the west and the north. And so what we've agreed to with our neighbors is that everything north of the San Diego River will be capped at 7 stories. Further capping our buildings immediately adjacent to our neighbors at 5 stories. And then we have some other requirements to do little pockets of 4 stories along Friars Road. And then along I-8, as you get into the office development, we are subject to the height caps of the Mission Valley Community Plan, which is about 150 feet.
The only other comment I had was the transit stop is perfectly located. It's exactly halfway between the 1.5 miles currently, so that's a well-placed stop.
Yes, thank you. I get a lot of questions. Why are you building a new transit stop here when there's one at the mall next door? And I think people kind of lose the sense of the scale here, but this has always been a planned stop along the Green Line, and it really completes the daisy chain of transit priority areas throughout Mission Valley. So yeah, astute point.
Thank you, Paul. Nicole Burgess and then Corla.
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you, Peter, for the presentation. It's great to hear and love all the words you're using for this wonderful development. Live without a car in San Diego. That's the possibility and the option. So that's fabulous. I did have questions. It's wonderful to hear about the bikeway connections and the possible EIFD. Do you have a proper a timeline or what phase the bikeway will go through your property?
Yeah, so Nicole, it's great to see you again. And I'm glad that we connected this way, because I think the EIFD is a magic bullet on a lot of fronts. And so one thing that it does provide is the ability to advance the construction of this river trail in its ultimate configuration. So you can kind of see it here in orange, Nicole, kind of what we're planning for. Exact alignment needs to be determined, but everything south of the trolley tracks, this gets back to the question about the golf course, is in the floodway and requires a mass grading effort. So there's a lot of work to do here. It all has to be done at once. And so the way that we're currently planning to fund it is to build residential, collect revenues, build up a war chest, and then do this big effort down here. And that's why I said that's a couple of phases out, probably 5 to 7 years away at least. With an EIFD, what you could potentially do is advance the construction of this trail and advance the construction of the river park, and then also give access to this MTS site down here where affordable housing may be built. So a lot of benefits if that EIFD comes through, and I think it could substantially accelerate the timeline for delivering the ultimate configuration of the river trail. We are going to be providing an interim configuration of the river trail, that probably leverages what's on Friars Road right now with our first phase of the project.
Okay, and can you tell me who's leading the EIFD?
So the county and the city, Nathan Fletcher provided a high level direction in his State of the County address. And I believe the current conversations are between the county and the city and a couple of stakeholders. So Nicole, you must know Rob Hutzel decently well. And I would say Rob's probably your best point of contact. In the mayor's office, it's Randy Wild, and in the supervisor Fletcher's office, it's Emily Weir.
Perfect. Those are great advocates for us. Two follow-up questions. Happy to hear the update on the future road. I'm glad it's not in your plan, and I'm hoping we can keep the city from developing that future road. Traffic circles, I think we mentioned this a while back, a new development has the possibility of not having stop signs, which we all kind of want to get rid of in our own communities. So traffic circles, I'm not sure if those were addressed, and even on-street parking and a transit-oriented development. Hopefully there's very, very, very little or none to on-street parking. Can you comment?
So, as for traffic circles, Nicole, we looked at it in a couple of key locations. Because the urban grid we're trying to get here, they didn't work for us, but I am a supporter of the roundabout concept and the way that it reduces the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that we have in our city.
Okay. Thanks for looking into that. Do you have on-street parking?
We do have on-street parking, and it's interesting to hear that the Bike Coalition is not a fan of on-street parking because it's usually thought of as a traffic calming, measure, but we do have on-street parking, especially around the retail.
Yeah, very dangerous. They take away space for cyclists as well as they create door zone hazards and as traffic. But I'll keep my report. So thank you, Peter, very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Nicole. Corla, then Matt.
Yeah, I just have a question. You might have touched a little bit just now when you talked about grading. I'm concerned about that Riverwalk Park and that flood area. Won't that area be unusable at times?
So, Corla, it's a great question, and undoubtedly the river park will be designed to flood, which is not uncommon for open space and park space. You know, you've, I'm sure, seen the golf course. If not, you've seen KUSI with someone parked over here on Fashion Valley Road trying to get to the mall. And, you know, every year someone tries to ford the river when it's flooded there and they get stuck. And so we are going to be raising Fashion Valley Road as part of this project as well, so that rather than flooding, you know, in a 2-year storm event, it'll flood in a 10 to 15-year storm event. But ultimately, yes, much of this open space will be designed to flood in the peak rainy season. And so accordingly, we won't have structures in the floodway, and we won't have you know, lighting for ball fields there. So it'll be a dawn to dusk park for the most part.
That sort of renders it useless to the community then, doesn't it? If it's
No,
flooded?
you know, I actually think the opposite. I think it makes for an amazing open space and really a connection to the San Diego River, allowing the river to be what it wants to be here, which is wider and less channelized. And you know, the river floods. We are aware that San Diego Mission Valley is, you know, it's a river valley. So allowing the river to do what it does, you know, right now the golf course operates, you know, as a for-profit business, and that is with flooding considerations. So I would say 90% of the year, 95, 99% of the year, some years 100% of the year, this will be open to the public.
Are you done, Corla? All right, Matt.
Yeah, quick question. As you're phasing out the golf course, you know, this presents a tremendous opportunity to relieve a freshwater consumption burden for supporting non-native vegetation. What's your plan for how to deal with vegetation in the park in the future?
Yeah, so all of the planting, we've worked with Schmidt Design Group out of the Point Loma area. You guys may know Glenn. He's done a number of the parks and open spaces around the city. And so our landscape plan contemplates all native planting in the open spaces and around the parks, and really restoring the vegetation that once thrived here. So, you know, thinking of your coast live oaks and your natural sage scrub, et cetera. And getting rid of a lot of the invasives. So all of that invasive turf that the golf course has today will eventually be replaced with native planting.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem.
One of the, Peter, one of the concerns in the chat was the flooding in that area. How is that going to be managed?
Yeah, so we're doing a number of things to improve flooding. I talked about how we're widening the channelization of the river today. But, you know, I think when folks think of flooding here, it's probably more the roads that flood. And so we are going to be raising Friars Road, the section that floods today. You know, right now, I wish I had the slide that illustrates it well, but right now it's a, you know, it's designed to flood. It's what's known as an Arizona crossing. It's essentially the cheapest way to build a road possible, right? So, you know, back in the 70s when these roads were built, it was designed to flood. It's got 5 60-inch culverts. So think of those as, you know, basically 6-foot diameter tubes that are underneath the road today. They're probably filled with muck and trash and shopping carts, and they don't work very well. So it floods basically every time there's a major rain. And so we're going to be widening that road as part of our improvements, and then also raising it and providing a soft bottom condition for the river. So we'll allow about, you know, 10 to 15 times the water capacity underneath the road before it floods, as compared to how it is today.
Well, I gotta say, this is an amazing presentation. I really appreciate your time, Peter. It's important and a big, huge development in the city of San Diego. Does anybody else have any questions? This is your time to do it. Concerns, feedback, suggestions, now or never. I'm sure you're also available, right?
Yes.
Email, give us all your information.
Yeah, I will put it in the chat, and then you guys are please do reach out with any questions. Always happy to chat.
And then you and I developed this amazing working relationship now, so I can always provide feedback and keep this informed.
I think Peter's presenting at the board on Thursday. Is that correct, Peter?
Oh, I thought this was that presentation. I know that I had initially had Thursday on my calendar.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just my confusion.
Yeah, no, it was my confusion as well, Corla.
Yeah, you're going to the bigger spectrum, but this was important here in case this group had questions or anything, and I really wanted the community to get involved to get to know you, and this is the perfect place to do so. So
let me just clarify, because I think I'm unclear. Am I also intended to present on Thursday?
yes,
Yeah,
I'll
you're on
send you
the
all the
agenda.
details.
Okay, yeah,
I'll
please
connect
do.
with
Yeah,
you.
I wasn't sure. Okay.
Well, we didn't know because the chair hadn't put you on the agenda yet. So
I got you.
went back
All
and
right.
forth with that. So I believe.
Sounds good. Well, for those of you who are on both those meetings, I apologize in advance. It's going to look pretty similar. So thanks everyone for your time.
They'll just get a cocktail. No big deal.
Have a great night. I'm going to go.
Thank you again for being here. And anybody else that has a question, quickly, we'll get you his contact information and we should be good to go.
Thanks so much. Bye,
Thank
all.
you, Peter. All right, let's move along, guys. So Cameron, are you available to give us a quick FOMOSA update?
I am. Hey guys, how are we all? Oh, am I off mute? Hold on. There we go. Hey everyone, how you doing? Cameron here. So FOMOSA, just quick update. Some of you, this might be old news. Basically, back in November, the San Diego Housing Commission chose Bridge as the preferred developer of the site. Within that development, they had 84 units of affordable housing. They were going to rewild the wetland and dedicate that as a city park to the city. And then they'd exit off of Nimitz into the development, and then they'd exit out of the development onto Formosa Boulevard. There was over 270 people who voted out against development of the Formosa Canyon at that meeting. At the December City Council meeting, the first time they tried to address this issue, we had over 200 people literally break the switchboard at City Hall, and they were unable to continue the meeting because they couldn't allow for public comment because so many people were trying to comment at the same time. The following week, December 15th, they tried to do it again, and we had so many people calling in, it broke the switchboard again. That's when Councilmember Campbell pulled it off the agenda and has not put it back on again. The bottom line is despite the Save Formosa Canyon attorney's several attempts to get FOIA information update from the San Diego Housing Commission, they have yet to respond or give any updates on where they're at with respect to the developer or negotiations to sell the land or any further updates on that. So we are diligently working with them, trying to get any sort of updates other than it got pulled from the agenda, and the city council has not yet approved Bridge as the preferred developer as of right now. And that's pretty much where we're at with it.
Questions on FOMOSA? Thank you, Cameron. We'll move along to MCRD, airport expansion, development updates. Cameron, do you want to touch on that?
I don't have a lot on that right now. DK might know more about this than I do, other than the Navy attempted to give this land to the city about 10 years ago, and they actually declined it because there was concerns over it being a Superfund site, i.e. heavily polluted. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. Yeah, it's then the Marine Corps did start putting females through boot camp there. I don't know if anyone saw the news there. So the whole premise of MCRD going away in the first place was the Marine Corps is trying to make a gender neutral boot camp. Now they're pushing female boots through there. I'm not really sure where they're at with that, or if they're still gonna, if they met their goals or not. So that's all I really have about MCRD.
Anyone else have any updates on the MCRD expansion or airport expansion from OB, Midway? Do you guys have anything?
I don't have anything about expansion of MCRD or airports. I just sort of, I think what Cameron just relayed is to the best of my knowledge what's accurate and current, but no, I'm not aware of any expansion efforts of either of those sites.
All right, let's keep this on our radar though, okay? For all three communities, Point Loma, Ocean Beach, and Midway, because it will heavily impact the coastal communities if that comes through. So let's keep that on the radar. And then Cameron, using parking spots at restaurants for outdoor dining, the extension on that. Ooh,
So
Paul
that's
Webb,
kind of a-
Paul Webb. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in here on the the expansion, I don't think that that's something that, at least in the short to midterm, we need to really worry about. When about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer now, the airport did look at what it could do with the MCRD property. And what would be desirable from an airport standpoint would be a second runway. And of course, from the community standpoint, that would be disaster. But there just isn't any runway configuration that would justify the cost of constructing a new runway. You just don't get enough because of the proximity of the two runways to each other and their configuration. You don't get enough increase in capacity to justify spending the $1 billion plus it would take to build a runway. It's not something we would need to ignore or want to ignore, but that's way down the road.
Thank you, Paul. All right, Cameron, do you want to touch base on you asked me to put this on the agenda, the using of the parking spots in our community for restaurants has been extended?
Yeah, so this might be a mute point. The city council just voted yesterday, today, to extend the permitting and authorizations for restaurants to use the parking spaces and outdoor spaces to expand their restaurants. So it looks like we're gonna have another year of outdoor dining. Right now, my personal thoughts, I'm actually personally against it for a variety of reasons. But like I said, it's kind of a moot point because they've already extended it for a year, but it's something we should keep on our radar because as COVID restrictions hopefully continue to reside and people are getting outdoors more, the perceived need to have outside dining will hopefully start to diminish. Some of the reasons I was personally against it was because it limits access to the sidewalk, gives public property to restaurants for free, and I'm not 100% sure it's ADA compliant by allowing people with disabilities full access to the sidewalk. But those are just my own personal thoughts and feelings on it. Either way, it looks like we got another year of outdoor dining ahead of us. Either way.
Questions, thoughts? Has anybody else heard anything on that?
Yeah, like
Go ahead,
said,
TK.
Yeah, just my quick little bit on this. From what I've seen, not just at City Council Day where they voted unanimously to extend this, they basically extended an emergency order that was brought on last year, and they're using this intervening 13, 14 months to come up with some permanent regulations about what exactly is allowed. These are all sort of temporary conditional permits. Some of the different entities, the different businesses, if you go down Little Italy, for example, and India Street, some of those structures are full-blown structures versus just some seats on the patio. There's a wide spectrum of different sort of installations that have come in over this last year or so. And so, like I said, after today's city council hearing, the whole point was to give council and planning department and all the various different stakeholders who have this planning authority some time to come up with regulations regarding what exactly constitutes the code. Really, they're writing the code for this. So we'll see that come through over these next few months, and I'm sure there'll be ample opportunity for folks to deliver feedback and comments. But yeah, the intent that's been stated definitely by the mayor, by multiple city councils, by leaders from all around the area, that these things are all they're broadly considered to be widely successful, and I think they're going to do everything that they can to legally make them permanent while they continue to currently operate under the emergency sort of stipulation.
Awesome, thanks, gentlemen. Okay, so that completes our informational items. I want to get into NAVWAR here in a second, but first I want to move up OB. Andrea, the chair of the OB Planning Board, is here, and I want her to go into item B of action items to see if she needs our help and support for the OB. And Corla, you touched base on this too. You've got some information from the CPC meeting, but let's go into, Andrea, if you don't mind introducing yourself and going into the OB motion to City Council about the quality of life regarding the STRs. This is very important. Thank you.
Yeah, and I actually do have a presentation if you want me to run through it quickly.
Yes, please. This is important.
We have just some. Okay. So I just have to share my screen. Okay, wait. 1 second, let me pull up what I need to share first. Sorry, my
We
desktop.
have Tracy here as well. Tracy also sits on the OB planning board. Thank you, Tracy, for being here.
So many
All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So one of the big things about the STR ordinance that was recently passed by the city council is that it will come in front of council each year to be reviewed. So I want to make sure that the communities who are, any community that could be impacted by the short-term vacation or short-term rentals is a part of the discussion about what kind of efficacy metrics we should be using when this ordinance comes back in front of city council. So our metrics are just really focused on quality of life. And it was a long discussion, and this was a lot of the things that came up via our conversations about what regulations we would like to see as part of the ordinance and the ongoing conversations that stem from that. But when we were thinking about making a metric, we were looking at, what the problem was, what data is already being collected by the city, or what tangential departments work to be able to see if these negative impacts that we think are going to happen are actually precipitating. So to run through a couple of examples here, the number one concern that we have is that it's really going to deplete a lot of our naturally occurring affordable housing stock. We have a lot of it in OB. We actually are one of the neighborhoods with the highest proportion of this. And, we're concerned that and we've already seen it, that investors are coming in and buying up the single family homes that are the cheapest on the market that would otherwise be rented to at a lower rate, and then flipping it around and turning into short-term vacation rentals. So this is actually a metric that's already collected by the city every year. So we just want to make sure that this is part of the review package to make sure, Pacific Beach already also has a high proportion of naturally affordable housing, NOAA stock. So we just want to make sure that this stock isn't exponentially decreasing every year in those key neighborhoods. So this is, again, data the city's already collecting. We just want them to review it when they actually review the STR ordinance every year. Another big concern is, obviously displacement of families. And we don't want to happen at any of our elementary schools what happened to Mission Beach Elementary. Now it's being raised, and there's luxury condos being put in. So we also want, as part of these STR metrics, to monitor just the elementary school enrollment and see what's happening there. To make sure that neighborhoods are still largely attracting families in long-term residents that are staying there, especially where there is infrastructure to already support it. We also want to make sure that this isn't rushing and putting pressure on our commercial districts to overly gentrify to compensate for the new amount of tourism that should influx from this. Obviously, long-term residents don't really use STRs as much as tourists do. So we just want to make sure that when the city council reviews this ordinance, the STR ordinance every year, they're also looking at how quickly property rents for residential units as well as commercial units are rising. We want to make sure that our smaller mom and pops are still able to afford the main street. This is obviously a big one too. We want to make sure that one person isn't surrounded by 5 party houses. So not only do we want to track and have it presented considered when this ordinance is renewed each year, how frequently some calls are coming out to certain areas and even certain houses, and then also monitor what time of day those calls are happening. Code compliance isn't going to come out at midnight or even after 5 really to come check on a possible party house for STRs. So that burden would then be falling a lot onto police enforcement. And most of the time they have better things to do than to respond to nuisance calls all night. So if we see that a lot of calls are happening later at night, and we have to maybe raise some fees, higher fees to then have a response team outside of this to better advocate for neighbors and keep the party houses down, then that's what we would get out of making the city council consider this metric every year. And we want to make, obviously, we don't want party houses. We want the good neighbor policies to actually work. So that's a good metric to see how the good neighbor policies are working. We also want to see how much TOT is exactly being collected from STRs to see actually if this policy is effective. Are we getting more from what we've permitted than we're losing in the city? Is this costing us more if we do have to fund that extra enforcement hand than what we're receiving in revenue? So this is one of the biggest efficacy metrics. There's also the consideration of trash pickup. I think possibly a lot of you know about the citizens ordinance, but most people in most homes don't pay for trash pickup. It is included with the city fees. So if this becomes an exponential problem, that the litter and the garbage is becoming too much for these houses, tacking on another fee, again, just making sure that the community is not overly burdened as to what these STRs are creating for us. And then there was also a lot of talk about the equitable distribution of these permits. So this came out of a discussion at CPC. Who are these people who are the owners of the STRs? Are they local residents? What socioeconomic level are they at? And you could just collect a lot of demographic data to make sure that just not one type of person is profiting off of our housing, and that it's equally distributed. So this was the full motion that we passed in Ocean Beach with some of the metrics that we use. I threw in a few more from CPC. I did present this to CPC last meeting as more of an information item, and I've also presented to La Jolla, and I'm talking to you guys tonight to go over this, and we're going to review it again at CPC and hopefully make a motion there and forward that on to all of the council members. We would need some council member obviously to push forward with this. So if you agree, I would say shoot an email over to Monique and say, I saw, and I can put some text that you can copy and paste into an email in the chat as well. I saw a presentation from the Ocean Beach Planning Board about the efficacy metrics. I know your office has them and reviewed them. I hope that I hope those are implemented in the yearly rereading of the STR ordinance. Just something simple, because our council office does have this. They've seen it. I've sent the motion along. They're well aware. So we just need to get enough community support saying that they would like to see these metrics implemented to push that along. And then hopefully, La Jolla and other CPC groups are doing their part on their council members, and we can pass a CPC motion next week to push this forward to the rest of the full city council. So we can make sure the STR ordinance works more for us than against us.
I appreciate your presentation, Andrew. We are here to help and support. Corley, you had your hand up, and I know you were part of that CPC meeting. Do you want to speak?
Andrea, did you change this last slide? Because I was going to send your presentation to our board after this meeting, since this was an action item. So is this last slide?
Yes, I made a few edits, so I can go ahead and send this PDF to you.
Will you send that to me, and I'll share that with the entire board, and depending on what action is taken by the committee, I'm not on the committee, but I think action should be taken on this. This is important. CPC, let me say how wonderful Andrea is and all the hard work Ocean Beach has done. She's very good at how she makes her presentations, in as much as we all know that the beach communities are more affected by short-term rentals. Other areas don't really care about this. They're not impacted like the beach communities are. And she was very, you were great. So anyway, I think we need to take a stand on this and pass something and get that in as an opinion.
I am happy to work with Sam, Matt, Tina, Robert to take action tonight, but what do you suggest? What would you like for this committee to suggest to the board to take action?
I think what Andrea said, just a short letter, if you want to say it again and rephrase it or write it up and send it, or I don't know, just say it again and maybe somebody will make a motion and do some action on what you just said.
Yeah, so I would love it if you guys just wrote into the council office and said we support the efficacy metrics that Ocean Beach has requested for the yearly rereading of the STR ordinance. And of course, you guys, if you guys think of any other ones, you know, the more, I guess, the merrier. And just pushing more for more, because when the mayor came and talked to CPC about STRs, and I asked him about what metrics he was going to use to measure quality of life, he just said police calls. And I think there's just more to the issue than just, you know, it's not just a nuisance issue to us. So we want to make sure that more efficacy metrics are in place than just, you know, how many nuisance calls there are.
He also believes that this is going to be a moneymaker for the city. And I don't personally see how that's going to happen. When Dr. Campbell presented to us, she said that the fees were going to cover the costs. The mayor's presentation, he said the city should make $1 million or whatever it was he said on that. So that's just my comments from what meetings I was in.
Well, I'd like to take some action and support Ocean Beach with this, especially since Corla does sit on our Peninsula Community Planning Board and is our representative for the CPC. I want to just clarify that Monique from Jennifer Campbell's office, you are here, correct? I did see that you logged on iPad 2. Can you confirm you're here, Monique from Jennifer Campbell's office? I know I invited her. I think she's on iPad 2. I did see she logged in, but it's great that she's here so she can hear our concerns and our wants. Monique, are you there? Anywho, so I'd like to go to my committee members to take action. I would like to take action tonight and suggest that we support a letter that goes to City Council on behalf of the PCPB board that is in support of this. So Sam, Robert Chirp Jackson, Tina, if you're here, and then Matt, let's discuss what we want to hear.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I've got a second on my motion. I want to hear from Sam and Matt with their feedback.
Yeah, I wanted to raise the issue that I'd like to somehow include a procedure for this annual review, because right now I don't seem to, and I haven't read anything else where how it's done. In other words, is this going to be developed by the city planning department with statistics that then feature a report that goes to council? So anybody that has suggestions so that we have some actual procedure here, and it's just not a quick summary annual review, would be more of interest to me. And
Andrea or Corla, can you answer that?
Well, so there hasn't been anything formatted yet, which is why these metrics and getting them in now is so important. In the ordinance, it does say it'll come up for yearly review, but so far there is no language around that yearly review, which is what led to my big push to get these done. It was almost like the week after it was passed, we had a meeting and I put this on the agenda and we had a long discussion about it at the OB planning board.
And Sam, it just seems like these things are moving quickly under our noses overnight. So that's why we're doing our best. The planning boards only meet once a month, CPC only once a month. So unfortunately, we have to take action kind of quickly.
what I would suggest is if we could effectively say that planning staff would provide statistical detail for review by council on the actual annual review that occurs.
I
Is
agree
it-
with you, but it just isn't happening. Matt
Okay.
Chalice,
Yeah, I guess, well, first off, thank Andrea, that was a good, clear explanation for how these metrics could work to like supplement the plan that the city's put in place. And I just wanted to ask the other members of this committee, like if in lieu of any concrete wording we have for a letter, would we want to basically just put this reworked motion on this final slide that's on our screens right now? How would we feel about saying that we as a board would support this as it's worded in this slide? Would that be something that other members here would be comfortable with supporting? Or would you have other?
absolutely. I'm just going by what we all think, we all decide as a group, but Robert, are you okay with that?
Yeah,
Any other recommendations from the community as we decide as a committee board to move forward with supporting this?
Yeah, I would support it. The only thing I was trying to do was to make sure that it wasn't basically a paper process that doesn't help anything.
I can assure you that Andrea will be all over it to make
Yeah, I
that
appreciate her.
that they take this seriously if they get our support. So I'd like to move forward with the motion. I got a second from Robert. Support a letter that supports this motion from the Peninsula Community Planning Board to be approved this Thursday if we can get on the agenda. Cameron.
I think you just answered the question. So what you're talking about is presenting a letter to the board as a whole and having the PCPB board actually vote on it. So the motion tonight would be to put that issue onto the agenda for board action. Okay, thank you.
To come from the PCPB chair and the board. All right, so I think we are good. Committee members that are here, that would be Robert Tripp Jackson, Sam, and Matt. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All right, motion passed. You've got our support, Andrea and Tracy. We will construct that letter and I'll send it over to you, Andrea, and hope our PCP board will approve it.
Okay, and I'll send these slides to Corella right now.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. All right, moving along. We've got transportation contributions to the climate crisis. Matt.
Okay, so I originally proposed this item when Margaret was putting out a call for items to discuss. And it was motivated by a policy adoption that I saw reported for the city of Petaluma in Northern California, where basically the city of Petaluma has just come out and said that they're not going to approve any construction of new gasoline stations for cars. And so I thought this was kind of a novel approach to the idea that, you know, we're kind of already at peak saturation of atmospheric carbon. We recognize that we need to reduce our reliance on things like fossil fuels, yet there doesn't seem to be a lot of concrete action in how we're actually going to reduce what we're putting up into the atmosphere. And so in looking at how this is coupled to things like land use decisions, you know, in the point of bringing it before this board, I like the idea of, you know, just setting kind of like a precedent that, you know, we're already saturated. We presumably have enough gas stations on the peninsula to support the car traffic we have here now. And I can see it as, you know, also contributing to potential pollution in the future if we were to approve new ones. I don't know, being a new board member, how often concerns like this would be brought up, since you of a board have been asked to approve in the past. But would people be interested in this conversation, you know, perhaps to, you know, adopt a resolution moving forward that we're saturated, we don't need to really consider new gas stations? And I'm gonna copy in the chat, copy to this article that brought this to my attention in case anyone wants to read up. And but yeah, with that, I, you know, invite conversation or discussion.
I really like this, considering the climate action plan and the future of our communities. So I definitely want to keep it in this group, the long range planning for future. Anyone want to ask questions or feedback to Matt in regards to this?
Well, I agree, but I would say over the last 30 years, we've gotten rid of quite a few gas stations throughout the community. And then in some cases you see them, the vacant land has to, dry out and I guess get unpolluted again. And then in some cases, like I said, then another gas station might go in, like Ralph's on the corner of Nimitz and Rosecrans. That was an old gas station that was closed in the 80s. And then they put a new gas station in many years later. So I think it's something to track for sure.
Excellent feedback. Anyone else? Let's keep this on our radar. I don't think we have to take any action tonight, Matt, but let's do some further research on this and bring it back to this committee and see if we can suggest, a plan to the city from our group. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Let's get into Corla. Can you give us some updates, please, from the park, City of San Diego Parks master plan and some CPC updates, and explain a little bit what the CPC is.
Okay, well, I think you sent all of the information I had around in the email to the board, but CPC is the Community Planners Committee, and it consists of all 54, I think, planning groups that have a representative there. And they talk about stuff that's important to everybody. My notes were in the email, but the main thing, and I'll give a short report on this at the board meeting on Thursday, is that the city is wanting to remove all required parking for ADUs in multifamily zones within a transit priority area. And they'll be talking more about this at next month's meeting. The Talmadge, a group in Talmadge and up in that area are all coming together about this ADU multifamily thing, and are pushing back on the city on this because I don't know if you saw the news, but they believe it to be opening for commercial development in all of our zones. Basically, in my opinion, the city has already removed single family zones by allowing ADUs on any property. So for the state, for them to say they're going, I don't know, that's already happened. So the other discussion is there seems to be no code enforcement during the pandemic. The city told us their salaries are not competitive and they can't keep staff. So this is something important to be addressed. Whatever you guys want to take up in committee would be helpful. Andrea did her presentation. And I will send that presentation out to all board members for a Thursday discussion. Then what I know about the park presentation is that this, and we have Tom, I think Tom Thiessen is here. He can speak more to that, but the city is committed to using the point system, and they say they will not present to planning groups. Nobody likes this. They're putting an emphasis on amenities to existing land and not on land per person. Unfortunately, they do not identify what those amenities are, and the city will release the new parks master plan the next few weeks. I actually think it's on the planning board or the planning website at this time. And this might be a good time, Margaret, if Thomas could speak, if he is that parks guy, I think he is.
Yes, Thomas, can you join us?
I am not the parks guy, sorry.
Okay, I don't know why I had your name. Are you a Measure E guy?
I'm a Measure E guy, and I'm also affordable housing guy, but not parks.
For some reason, I had you in my mind as parks. So anyway, I apologize for that, but nice to see you anyway.
No problems. I'm enjoying this meeting immensely. Thank you.
Oh, good. Well,
Awesome, thanks.
The park issue about these amenities is a serious one. And I think they're really not doing us a service. We need open space. And I know I'm preaching to the choir with this group that that's an important issue. So the other thing from CPC is SB 330 passed in 2019 and expires in 2025 unless the Senate extends that bill. It limits development projects to more than 5 hearings. So if they go over that, they are automatically ministerial approved. This bill is under review, and it's unclear if the planning group meetings are included in this number, but we have projects come before the project review as well as our board, and that takes up 2 meetings. And so whatever the city decides they need, this could be a problem, but the city attorney's working on this. And state level actions could again limit planning group involvement. So that's important because I, again, another personal opinion, think that they've been trying to get rid of planning groups. The city attorney has put down rulings about planning groups, and that's a long story. So we just have to keep our fingers crossed that they don't get rid of us. So the 2021-22 legislation, there's 2,500 bills now in the works. SB 9, Tony Atkins, eliminate single family zones. SB 10, Wiener, pro-density bill. All these projects that would come under these bills would be ministerial, means we wouldn't see them. It doesn't mean that these will pass, nor does it assume what iteration these bills will be passed in. Many of these bills just die away, but this is what they're trying to do. They want to make all these, they want to push density on us and make all these projects ministerial. And that doesn't give the community a chance to respond with our wishes, because we're the ones that have to live with it, and it affects us. So Tony Kempton was talking about constant contact. DSD is all virtual. Everything is virtual. So if you want any notices or you want anything, to know anything, you need to go on the city website and sign up for that. And it's sandiego.gov/planning, and or actually sandiego.gov/DSD email. And I'll try to put that link in the chat here in a minute. And that way you can sign up for any kind of notices that you want. Project notices, historical review board, you know, anything that the city's doing, you can sign up to receive those notices by email. Otherwise, you just won't hear about them. And then this is important for the board as well as committees. There's no in-person eCal. All of our board members, as well as our community committee members, need to take the eCal. You can do this online, but when Paul Webb did this last month, I think, Paul, there was no way to get a certificate. They're using the 2019 eCal information. It's the same information, it's good information, but there was no way to get a certificate. So they suggested that we screenshot your completed screen to send that to the city, because it has to be proven that all of our people take that eCal. And that's what I know from CPC, and any direction the committee or the board has for how, you know, we want to proceed when items come up to help me is always appreciated.
Thank you, Corla. Nicole Burgess.
Thanks. And thanks, Corla, for all the updates. Great information, and appreciate your perspectives. A little different perspective on I believe it's the non-residential parking reform policy that the city's staff is currently working on and actually trying to push through by July. As you mentioned, commercial areas into our areas is a concern, but also for me, this policy is only looking in transit priority areas. Ocean Beach, Point Loma, La Jolla, North PV don't actually fall into this region. And it's actually a disservice to our businesses that are trying to survive on Newport. There's quite a few businesses that would love to expand, put a rooftop, something. They have to end up putting 26 parking spaces that they could never accommodate on their site. And so we really need this non-residential parking reform to actually include these business districts that we have and carve out a space for them, even Voltaire Street and PV. And so I hope as we can share those perspectives of this is good for businesses, and that we want the policy to actually include our areas. So And then the parks plan, thanks for that update. It is actually a lot of groups in other parts of the city are actually weighing in, and I think it's going to take many revisions and this new leadership to change direction for that. So I'm looking forward to that changing. So thanks again for the updates, and thanks. That's all my comments.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you,
for that
Nicole.
Perspective. I hear what you're saying. I don't know if y'all have seen, I don't have it in front of me, but it was the SB 743, I think that's that transit priority area. And if you look at that map and you look at our areas, everything's a yellow circle. They're trying to, I think that almost everywhere is a transit priority area now. Not, that's an over exaggeration, but if I wish I had that, I could share that map.
We don't qualify in the city map. So because this bus service does not transfer every 15 minutes, we don't qualify. So we're being left out of this policy. So what I'm saying,
they changed that map with all those yellow circles on it? Because
so that's a Sandag future map. And what the city is using right now is what bus service is actually going into those communities. So OB is being left out of this policy. And I think it's really, the mobility motion to actually include OB and these coastal business districts is really what I'm seeing. I haven't been able to dive into other communities in the city that might be affected, but for me, I can see and District 1 is definitely being left out of this policy. Mobility Board made an action to include it. Staff is not looking into it. Planning staff is still kind of
I thought it was existing or planned within the next 50 years and that they were going off of that 50-year map, if you will, which I don't think is right or fair, but that's what I had in my mind, that they were going off of that map, planned 50-year map. But you're saying that's not the case now?
No, eventually OB will fall into this policy, but to actually benefit from it as of July or when it passes, they won't qualify until we get enough bus transit through our corridor.
Because you can walk downtown from Point Loma quicker than you can, get a bus. So, yeah, and it's included on that map, our area. So,
and it's good. I think you say we were going to have an update, so that's good. So
Matt Chalice. Matt, you had your hand up.
Oh, my question was for Corla, just real quick. Do members of the board need to update their ECOW every year, or if I have one from past service, is that still good?
When did you take it? I think as a new member of the board, you should take it. You've just been a committee member previously, right? I think you should. They want you to take it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right, any other questions in regard to the topics, guys? So we can move on to Navar. OB, do you have anything? Any questions for Nicole or Corla? Nope, we're good. Any questions for Corla? Thank you, Corla, for that report. Awesome. Do we need to take action on anything?
I don't think so. The main thing I just wanted to see brought forward was the STR metrics.
Yes,
and
that's covered.
Yeah. So
we'll support OB with that.
Everything else is not as urgent, I don't think so.
Okay, but again, the reason why I want to put this on the agenda for discussion is to keep it on our radar. If we potentially need to take action, we can revisit agenda and see what we've discussed and keep it on our radar is my mission in this group, some of this stuff. All right, let's move to Navar. Who's got an update? I've got an email. I invited Mushka, who is actually the head of this project and can provide information. I'm hoping I asked her to present on this development on Thursday at our Peninsula Community Planning Board meeting. So we'll see if she'll be able to make it to that. So, but anywho, I've got some information, some emails. The community is in an uproar, and there's a lot going on. And so I want to hear from my committee members first, and then go on public and community. And everything that we talk about here most definitely will be discussed at the Peninsula Community Planning Board. And if we take action, we will. Go ahead, hands, please. Oh, actually, let me go defer Cameron. Cameron and DK, are you guys here? I put your names on here as backup on this.
I'm here. I mean, so I think we all sort of saw the news from just this week about the environmental impact study that came out I don't have a concrete update, although I know Muska will be at our meeting tomorrow. She's on agenda. So if you can't pin her down for Thursday, feel free to drop it tomorrow. We'll have her there. But yeah, at this moment, the community planning group, we're not taking position, support, opposition of any kind. We're talking about something like that tomorrow. But the planning group itself has no formal position on this thing. I know that there is sort of split views and opinions about this scope, and I think just details and the transparency in this overall process. It's been, something that's been going on for years and years. So not that anyone's being caught by surprise. It's more just that it's details, right? And I think even myself I consider myself mostly in favor of this overall redevelopment. But even myself was maybe a little bit caught off guard by just the number of units and parking spaces and some of the details that are coming out. But that's the update I've got on this subject for the moment.
Appreciate it, TK. Cameron, do you have anything from the military standpoint? And any side information you could provide? And we won't tell military.
I don't have any other than, I've been tracking like DK, and we've been talking about developing this for years now. It's kind of surprised they actually came out with the 6 courses of action that proposed this. I know there are people coming out against it. I have a graphic showing where people's views from Mission Hills will be affected and whatnot. I also question the actual need for the upgrade of the cybersecurity bill and whatnot. So there's a lot of questions out there. It should be an interesting meeting when Muska shows up. But DK pretty much summarized, everything I know and thoughts and feelings on it.
Cora.
Yeah, the comment period is open now. We received as a board information about that, but it was early before the comment period opened. But everybody has the opportunity to comment. I will comment that Assembly Bill 2731 proposed by Gloria eases the IR restrictions on these type of projects. And that does nothing to do with Todd Gloria. That doesn't make me very comfortable easing EIR restrictions. It's also somehow to be tied to the Central Mobility Hub that Ikram, whatever his name is proposing. And I just think everybody needs to be sure that they go on that website. The EIR is like 5,000 pages. So that's like a professional needed to review that. But I think everybody needs to go on there and look at what they're proposing. The news stories, you can pull up the stories from yesterday. They show sort of schematic on what's proposed. And Mark and I were talking this yesterday. We toured the Montserrat Hotel and we were talking about how tall and how dense, and I think DK's description as being a little caught off guard by the scope is a really good description. So everyone needs to educate and comment on the NAV revitalization site.
Sam,
quick.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Just one quick correlate. That piece of legislation that you mentioned. I just want to offer correction based off my understanding. I don't believe it eases any restrictions. What it does, it compresses the time for CEQA, which is separate from the IS that just came out. And so I just want to be very clear that
on that. I thank you. I stand corrected.
Yeah, the understanding of that bit of legislation from this past cycle, that it's meant to streamline the redevelopment, particularly of transportation hubs. And so it's a CEQA process there, not an ES that the Navy does. The Navy is federal, and that's public.
I'd like to defer to my committee members, Sam, Robert Tripp Jackson, Matt Shellis, for their input. I'm not sure we can take any action on this. It seems like the thing went to fruition. However, they are stating here in an email I received from Muska that it says that they are having virtual public meetings that'll be held on the following dates for the public. June 8th, 5:30 and 8 p.m., June 23rd, 5:30 and 8 p.m., and then public feedback and input needs to go to info@navwaterrealizationproject.com. I'm gonna send this all information to the board, of course, and all of you community members, but they have all these deadlines. The Navy has prepared a draft environmental impact statement, EIS, and published a notice of virtual public meetings, the public to participate. The 60-day public comment period began on May 14, 2021, and it will end on July 13, 2021. I think we need to encourage the community to really participate in this and send as many emails as they can with positive or negative, whatever they want, feedback on this project. I did see a couple certain neighborhoods, Mission Hills and Old Town, put a lot of photos and concerns and feedback into their group chats, and it was kind of sad that they don't see the bay anymore once these bills go up. So that's just my personal suggestion, is get out there, educate your communities, that has been to provide feedback and attend these seminars and shops. So going back to my committee members, what are your thoughts? Sam? Can you unmute, Sam? Can't hear you. There you go.
Okay, I don't know how that happened, but I got you. Anyway, I'm quite concerned about the history of the site, particularly the degradation of the site from different projects that have been going on for decades there, and with no cleanup and this type of thing. And I don't know that, I don't know if this is something that, obviously, I guess the federal government owns title to property, at least I assume they do. And I don't know if we can impose a lot of requirements from that standpoint, but I think that there really has to be an assessment of the site, the history of what occurred, the potential ramifications of people who may be inhabiting later structures and in the area. So that's kind of the basic concern I have before we move on to anything. And of course, I think if this is done improperly, we can make Interstate 8 into a parking lot, basically, at that area, if we have the right transportation arrangement.
Thank you, Sam. Robert, Matt?
Well, I agree with that. I mean, I read, there was one building in 1995 where we're finding, PCs, chemicals, or drums leaking. And I think an overall review would be in order if, the Fed doesn't trump us on a local level.
Hi. So yeah, I share some of these concerns with, what's gone on at the site, what kind of industrial contaminant may be present. At this time, I'm looking at if the Navy hasn't stepped in to clean this up before now, we might actually have an opportunity to clean up this site. Is in the back of my mind, like where the money for that is going to come from, who the burden is going to be on. So that's kind of what I'm curious about, knowing next steps moving forward. But I can't have any action for us to take at this moment.
Cameron?
Hey, Margaret. So I was thinking was, since there's a 60-day comment period, what we should do is we should take this until June meeting and get it on the June agenda for the PCPB to write an actual letter. So I think it's, since this is brand new, I think it would give us weeks to actually come up with meaningful inputs to present the long-range planning meeting that could actually discuss and bond, and then have the board itself then a proper letter at the actual board meeting and generate an actual letter, meaningful inputs, just like what we did with the Formosa Canyon letter we did back 18 months ago. Give the board some time to actually look at it, and then generate meaningful inputs into the proposal.
Awesome. I'd like to open this up to the community now after I heard my committee members. And I know you've been waiting patiently, and then kind of you're here for this. So do you have anything that you want to comment?
First of all, I think it's too big of a project for our neighborhood. I mean, we are a very, very, dense community already. Does there need to be some cleanup in that area? Yeah, but does it need to be so many tall buildings? The infrastructure in San Diego and in that area is bad already, and I see this as a really sad project for our city and our community here. Point Loma, OB, Hillcrest, Mission Hills, Old Town. I'm fourth generation Point Loma, and I don't know. I bought my house because I had a view of the bay, and there was no other reason. It was a piece of junk about it. It was a shed. I didn't even want to move it. Actually, I didn't for 3 months. So when people come to here and pay a lot of extra money and work very, very hard, and we want to preserve that. And I just think we need to take a step back and really listen to our community members And this is not a project for neighborhood. That's just my opinion. And I'm sure a lot of other opinions and people are in an uproar. I mean, I just shared it with my little group chat on Facebook and they became unglued. I think we were blindsided. It seems like it's a go. I mean, I can't really tell by the lit that I've read. So I feel really blindsided as a community member.
Well, I can assure we're here to listen to all neighbors and fight as much as we can, Evelyn, and I appreciate you making the time out of your busy schedule to be here. So, I mean, your voice matters. So thank you.
And
your voice and opinion has been recorded.
I do a lot of Dixon on, so I might attend.
There's a lot. These
have enough volunteer work.
You know about that. Corla, your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I think the comment, I agree with Cameron, the comment period ends in July. I'm anxious to hear how Mid dissects this. I know we got a good man on that board over there, DK, and I'm anxious to hear what they come up with and how they feel about it. I also want to reiterate the comment that the federal land, so really we're lucky that Navy is allowing us any comment at all. So on your Facebook page, everything, please get the get that link out to where you can comment and people put their input in individually. And we just keep our fingers crossed. We'll look forward to Midway's reaction as well as what happens in this comment period.
And that is why it is crucial to have Midway and Ocean Beach in these meetings. Paul Grimes.
Thank you, Margaret. You know, we've seen 3 projects today, and why I asked how many units and how many acres were at Riverwalk was to do some calculations. Now, I know Riverwalk and also the Spring project probably have some parks in there, but the Riverwalk comes to 22 housing units per acre. The sports arena, depending on which one you choose, is 31 to 43, and the Navwar one is 142. We're talking height differences between 80 on one project to 80 on another, to 350 feet on this thing. It's going to block views. The transit option depends on a massive text that I doubt will pass. It will double the population of 9110 when you include units over at Sports Arena. And according to one of the things I just read, it'll take 9110 about 2,000, or I'm not sure how many, but there are a couple thousand units above the community plan. They're looking at putting 10,000 units in. The 10th on the right in that area, so the ones at Sporting would be over the top. Additionally, it seems to me like this project was thrown at us because there was some surplus land, and then the airport wanted to, you know, sign up for some kind of service over at the airport, of which they about probably throwing something beneath the runway, which actually heaves up and down a couple of inches based on the tides. And it looks like they're doing something that approaches the current bus service that goes over to the rent-a-car facility. And if extended that bus service a couple of blocks, they could take right to one of the trolley stations today. The amount of money that would need to be spent to do what the guy from Andag wants to do is unbelievable. I mean, they would have to upgrade and add tons of track on the LOSAN segment. There's areas up there by the brewery where for years you've had to the trains, when you go by, they're slow because the track is bad. It's been that way for 25 years, where they're down to like 30 miles an hour. They've got a lot of work to do. And I would imagine to upgrade the trolley tracks to put additional tracks in if they want to run the service they're talking about in there. Now, most go to the airport. There happens to be a large number of people who go to the airport for 6:30, 7:30 in the morning departures. How many of those people are going to be riding public transit to the airport at that time? They would have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and may not even get a bus to make probably another connection to go down to the area to take where that thing over to the airport. The opposite happens in the evening when a lot of people are arriving between 7 and 11 o'clock at night. None of those are going to be riding on transit. I believe if you look at in the United States, the highest level of any airport is somewhere 7% of total passengers. And even if double that, it would not be that. It would not serve that much of the airport people. You want to go downtown when you get to the airport, when you fly in, you're having an Uber. You're not going to catch something that security goes over to a location over where they used to build airplanes to get on another trolley to go downtown. And then you're going to have to walk wherever you have to get to. It's just, the whole thing is ludicrous.
Thank you, Paul. Thomas.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Tyson. I live downtown San Diego. I'm former president of the Regional Task Force. And I think most people would agree that the biggest blight we have in this community is not the lack or say blocking views. The biggest blight we have in this community is homelessness, caused primarily, if not exclusively, by our lack of affordable housing. I looked at 10,000 unit housing and thought, oh my God, we're going to make a difference. I think it's really, really important that we spread 10,000, the need for, we're 100,000 units short of housing in this community. I think it's really important that we spread that around. And if we have an opportunity of 10,000 units housing, I'm all in favor of it.
Thank you, Thomas. Cameron, you shared something here with us. Do you want to on it?
I'm trying to share. I just emailed it to the district, the impacts that mission residents will have to their review based on what is happening. Thomas said that, and I wanted to address comments by Thomas. I just wanted to point out the fact that this Nav War site, this proposal would proportionally hurt minority and poor people already living in the community, and it's being set up next to essentially on a Superfund site. So again, for poor people and minorities on a potential Superfund site that has not actually tested properly yet for even habitual use on the ground, in the name of affordable housing, I think is doing a disservice to homeless people and minorities. We need to look at better solutions other than just build on potentially contaminated land. Thank you. But the other things I sent were I was trying to show the impacts of use on the NAVWAR site. Thank you.
Cameron, may I ask Cameron a question? Margaret, you're saying a super what, like a super flume, super what site are you saying?
They're called super sites. That's where it's highly contaminated that the federal government has to come in and pay money to clean this thing up. And so
super fund, F-U-N?
Yeah, super fund, F-U-D.
Super fund. Okay, I just couldn't. Thank you.
Has that more site been designated as a Superfund site? I'm not aware of that.
Not yet. They haven't gone into it, and so
they're speculating at what might or might not happen. Is that correct?
I'll tell you from personal experience. I know I personally know it's been dumped down those around there in the area, and I'm absolutely shocked that it hasn't been pointed out yet. So I have personal knowledge of what has or has not been on that site, and that's my only knowledge. And I actually care about the government. So I was surprised to see what happens as they dig into it. I know the city rejected the land in the past because of contamination concerns and the cleanup costs associated with contamination concerns on the site. And so before we start doing things in the name of affordable housing, I think we need to take a close look at what the gift the Navy is potentially giving to the city of San Diego. Prudence is more of the word I'm looking for.
Awesome. Thanks. Anybody else with comments that we could take to the board for conversation? Again, another item that needs to be kept on our radar, that is the mission of the group to keep some of these big items on our radar for discussion and action towards the city, which includes Mid and Ocean Beach, if they need our support. So any else, final comment on this project? I think it's fresh and new. As DK mentioned, it's super new to, I mean, not new, but I mean, I think the San Diego Union June kind of just blasted out there with no real heads up to the community and all the planning boards and everyone involved. But there's a lot of stuff out there that the Pacific Highway Barnett Road is going to be closed eventually due to this project. And I mean, again, it's making Ocean Beach, Point Loma, and Midway stuck on this dangerous tip of San Diego with no way out. The arteries of, Ocean Beach, Rosecrans, and Midway are only ways out, and still no hospital in a vicinity of Point Loma, Midway, Liberation, Ocean Beach. No hospital. So concerns all across the board, I'm sure. And we all know things are going to change going into the future. We get it, developments and people coming in. But again, we are at one of the most dangerous in San Diego. Any conclusion thoughts poll.
Yeah, thanks, Margaret. I just want to share a perspective with the group, and just, you know, as that neighborhood is not really a neighborhood, it's just a drive-through area. So I just hope that we can keep in mind to that kind of project that can actually transform that area with sports arena. And I've seen the post office really be some major construction. You have to put in mindset that Liberty Station was a training facility, you know, of militaries, and look what it's become. And, you know, people are flocking to that by car. Yes. That's not something that I'm in favor of. I'm not in favor of all the parking space at that site. As you know, I would love to see more housing for the generations that we having. We all have multiple kids and families, and so we have to have housing. And we know that I see firsthand influx of people that are in shelter. Homeless are coming to our streets all the time. So we do have to have affordable housing, and that's a true discussion there. And so, and how do we allocate that space, and how do we allocate our Net Street Bridge Highway to downtown San Diego and a vibrant like business area of. I'm not a necessarily fan of where that centrality perhaps is, that money being spent on highway on-ramps and everything like that. But I do have a greater appreciation for a more walkable, likable, livable center in that, as some people would say, the armpit of San Diego. So I'm not a fan of high, but let's have some good project, and DK will make sure that we manage those and that density will, you know, allocate some vibrant area for us. That's a deadly area to bike through, by the way. When we talk about access, I hear it from Ramona. You're not gonna get out of town.
DK, make safe.
Yeah, no, I think, I'll just jump in briefly. I think a big part of where I'm at with all of this is that we here in Midway are very aware of the fact that we have work to do. We have improvements to make. Cole's point, this area is deadly. You know, I bike around here all the time, walk around here all the time. We have it cut out for us, right? You know, I myself definitely consider myself to be an advocate for affordable housing. I'm looking very closely at this project, the Spurina project. I think Nicole just mentioned the office, which is happening. The overall overhaul, right, of the Midway District is something that we take very seriously. And so I'm trying to withhold sort of my, I guess, judgment on this project that's been sort of publicized this last week or so until I've spent the time that I need to have an informed opinion. But I think it's important to be aware of the context, how this thing came about, how this thing designed, what they're seeking to achieve, and then to work backwards from there. We've talked a number of times. This specific Navwar site is federal property. They don't need our permission. They don't need our forgiveness. They don't need anything from those of us who are where we are. And so I think for me, as opposed to trying to sweep this flood, I'm going to try to ride it and just shape it best of our ability so that it has the highest possible use for our community. Yeah, I don't know. I was, through by the intensity of that, but overall, I feel I am in principle in favor of what they are seeking to achieve. The devil's always going to be in the detail, and on the dollars as well. But broadly speaking, I am cautiously optimistic going in tomorrow and going into the future regarding how we overall look to redevelop the Midway District and San Diego at large.
I really appreciate DK. Seriously.
Hey, Erin, I want to say I'm not against affordable housing by any means or stretch of the imagination. And my point I'm trying to make, okay, you articulated it very well. The fact that this came out, we need time. And that's why I'm saying we need to take a month. We need to wait till next meeting. We need to research. We need to give meaningful inputs. And sitting here sitting back and forth, environmental impact or impacts the community is kind of short-sighted. And that's really the point I'm trying to make. And as far as, and because I asked Nicole, we need to be looking at how are we going to make our community more pedestrian-friendly? How are we going to allow for more bikes and people to move out the community? And I don't think haphazardly build just to build is necessarily the answer. We need to plan this and we need to be in condition. But DK, you are 100% correct. And we cannot forget this. That's on federal property. And this is manned by the Navy. And my own personal thoughts on it and trying to figure out why you would build so many houses there with there's demand to use existing infrastructure, but that's a whole different conversation. So yeah, anyway, but yeah, we need to be looking more of a vision of how we're going to forward in the future and how we're going to communities and not do haphazardly. I think it's to really make a judgment on it when none of us have really looked at the 6 different courses of action that the Navy proposed or dive to it or the 5-page environmental impact study. So thank you.
Wow, not sure what that noise is, but I apologize. All right, so that concludes this.
One final comment.
Everybody, I mean, this was an awesome meeting to compile into one
Margaret,
session with a lot.
We're sorry, Marty. I think Tom was trying to just get one last bit.
Yes, I will. Well, I'll get to him. I just, again, where is he?
Right, I'm on.
There you go.
Can
Go
you-
ahead. Thank you, Jay.
DK and Karen, I think we agree on the need for affordable housing. We also agree that this is a federal project. They can sort of do what they want to, without much attention to us. I'm also personally shocked at the size of the project and understand concerns of the neighborhood. The question is, how do we most effectively mold this into something that's workable, that provides housing, but is also compatible with the neighborhood? That's what we should be working at, and I think we can all agree on that.
Amen to that.
We get a show of hands with that. All right. Matt. Matt, are you there?
Oh, no, I was just doing connection. I was just hitting the.
Okay, so that concludes this meeting. At last minute, Paul.
Yes, I hear that
action
number that you were going to nominations for.
Yes. Okay, let me just say a little bit about this group. This group will be very important this year. As I'm the chair, we have new goals. The goals will be to really focus and bridge that between Ocean Beach, Midway, and Liberty Station. I really want this group to work together with the representatives of the planning boards for OB and Midway, and get to the bottom of these projects with more information to community, and if necessary, make the right decision for our 4 communities, which are PL, OB, Liberty Station, and Midway. So that's the goal of this group. I really need some community members to join. Our board members are set. We meet once a month. That's it. And we make some crucial decisions for the future of our communities. That's why it's called long range planning. So we make all the decision making here. We take the board for final approval, and it gets off to the city. So if there's anybody that wants to join, I have a couple here that have expressed interest, but I'd like you guys on board now. If you're interested in joining this committee, again, it's super easy, but making some really super difficult decisions and creating discussions within community. So Paul.
Yes, do you want to hear from me? Yes, I am interested in joining the community or the committee.
All right, Paul, I would like to nominate you to be a community member on the board committee, not board. Do I have a second from anybody on my committee? Sam seconds. All those in favor, my committee. I don't see Matt. Matt, are you here? Yes. Okay, unanimous. Welcome aboard, Paul. Paul brings a wealth of knowledge, and if you don't mind sending me your little blurb, then I can take it to the board, and you've got our welcome.
Thank you.
Any else want to join this committee? Cameron, I think you mentioned you wanted to.
I'd like to, if you could have me.
Absolutely. I'll make a motion to nominate Cameron Havlick to be a community member on this long-range planning committee. Get a second.
I'll second that.
Sam seconds. All those in favor? Welcome to the committee. You are going to do some, Cameron, for us from a naval standpoint. Anybody else?
I'll go and throw my in the ring. If you'll have Margaret, I'm happy to tune in.
Good. All right, I'll make the motion to add DK to our committee. Can I get a second? Sam. All those in favor? All right, unanimous. Welcome to our committee today.
Thank you very much.
And I think, do I have anybody else here? Paul Grimes, Cameron, Lucky, is he still here?
He's gone.
He's gone. I wanted to be. So any else interest from
Still here.
Lucky? Would you want to be considered on the committee?
You
You
know,
were
Margaret,
in the past.
yes, Margaret, I wish I could. I think you're going to be doing great work this year, but I've made some other commitments. It's just going to make it possible for me to do that. So regretfully, I'd have to decline that. I wish you the
No
best.
problem. Well, we hope you stay involved and attend our meetings.
Thank you.
Because your feedback is valuable. All right, so I think we've got a full committee for the year 2021, 2022. And as always, you can always, the rest of you join and get some stuff done. I would like to, if there's no further questions, go to the Midway Planning Board meeting tomorrow and the Peninsula Community Planning Board meeting on Thursday. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Midway. I'll send you that info. PCPB Thursday, 6 o'clock. Can we get a cheers?
Ooh. Actually, I have one quick question, Margaret.
Yes.
So for this long-range planning, is this also going to be the third Tuesday? So we'll always have the Wednesday, Thursday, if it works
I'm
out?
hoping so. As a committee, we will decide that.
Okay, perfect. I think
Let's
personally,
decide that as a
selfishly,
committee.
yeah, selfishly, I would love it, but we'll decide.
Yes, I
at
think
your
it works for the community too, because there's a lot of going on. So I think this works, but we'll discuss it as a committee.
Totally. Thank you.
Any last minute comments?
Margaret, I had a quick question. Does the, we can take people outside Point Loma boundary as members on the Range Planning Committee?
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause I think Tracy might want to run too if we have room.
Yeah, I believe we looked into it in the bylaws last year. As long as they're around like the Paloma jurisdiction, I can get back to you on that.
Yeah,
So, yeah, just let me know on that.
I'll look into
because
it.
I actually was going to nominate or try to get on some other committees that you have.
Yeah.
But Carla brought up that it was in your laws that only people who lived in Point Loma could do that.
It doesn't say that specifically. It's kind of vague. I actually looked at it a few weeks ago and it doesn't say Point Loma or it doesn't provide a zip code. So
it says, they usually say community, and that's how
Yeah.
the new ones are written as well. So
it does say community.
We opted to allow people from outside of the Ocean Beach Planning Board area, but I think that would be something that you're gonna have to get voted on if, you know, yeah. And if you guys do decide board that anybody in your community area is able to join the committees, then let me know.
I will.
Okay.
Any other questions? Feedback? Did you learn a lot today? All right, good.
Yeah.
The start of many conversations in protecting, preserving, and getting used to new developments in our communities. We can't do alone, so bridging the gap between multiple communities will get there and a positive environment for future generations to enjoy. So I appreciate every single one of you being here tonight. I know it's busy and we're all hungry, so enjoy, and I'd like to adjourn this meeting at 8:05 p.m.
See you Thursday.
Oh,
Tell me the record file if you can.
I will. Thank you, everyone. I
Thank you.
appreciate your volunteer work.
And Margaret, could you send me an invite next meeting, please? Tom Tyson here.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tom.